What's up, party people?
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you for joining us again for a tantalizing, shocking, and just right out badass podcast. Uh, we have today an episode that it really speaks to me because we as podcasters we do a lot of social media to get our name out there to get
Gosh, the
our
social media is never ending, and I'm not good at
yes.
it. So help me. We need a social media guru. Submit your
um,
applications.
well, and for a guru, our case today definitely is not one.
Oh, she is
So
not. That
no,
is
no.
true.
So heavy trigger warning. There will be a live clip, um, and we will be talking about drugs, alcohol, sex trafficking, and death. So, you know what we say, if you're not down for that, catch us on the flip side. We don't mind.
You can always hit one of our cryptid episodes. Those are a lot less antagonizing and gory, and
Yeah, they're
they're
not
not.
as intense.
Yes.
Um, but if you're still here with us, thank you. And let's dive in. On July 21st of 2017, midway through the evening, my now wife texts me to turn on our local news. CBS out of Fresno was showing a young woman being escorted by our county sheriff's department out of a field, handcuffed, near an overturned vehicle. The text that came through chilled me to the bone. Quote, I just booked her in at the main jail. She killed her sister in a car accident and filmed it live on
Wait, your
Instagram.
wife booked her?
Yep.
Wow.
Yes. She was my girlfriend then. We hadn't gotten married yet. Excuse me. But yeah, she had she had booked her.
Wow. I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah. I saved that little tantalizer from you. That young woman is Obdulia Sanchez, 18 years old at the time, from Stockton, California. She received international media attention for running a live stream that captured the fatal car accident that killed her 14-year-old sister, Jacqueline, and seriously injured 14-year-old Manuela Sija, who was Jackie's best friend. So, this is how it happened. While returning to Stockton from visiting their older sister in Fresno, Obdulia, traveling at a high rate of speed on a backroads highway near Los Banos, California, starts a live Instagram feed of herself and Jackie and Manuela singing, dancing, and Obdulia more than one time takes her hands off the steering wheel and focuses on her screen on her phone. So I'm very careful with that kind of thing because I can get distracted very easily. So I will not look at my phone when I drive. I make the radio read me text and then I'll give them
I do the
text
same
back.
thing.
Imagine this, you're cruising down the road, you're on a one of the back highways because you want to get home fast. Maybe dinner's ready. Maybe you're going out with the girls, but you want to get home fast. So these are the highways that you take because they are very rarely monitored by highway patrol. They are mostly monitored by the county's sheriff's department. And our county sheriff's department covers Merced, Hillmar, Gustine, Los Banos, this is a 50-mile radius for one department. So if you want to speed, it's pretty well known which ones to go to. But inside the 2003 Buick, none of the girls were wearing their seatbelts.
None of them?
None of them were wearing seatbelts. In my car, the car doesn't run if you don't have your seatbelt on.
Same with me. We're not going.
Obdulia, not focused on the road, allows the car to drift off the road onto the shoulder. Impaired in her judgment, overcorrects the Buick, sending it like a rocket across the opposite side of the highway through a barbed wire fence, rolling over 2 or 3 times. Both 14-year-old girls are ejected from the back windshield, one seriously injuring her leg, the other suffering a fatal head wound. What does Obdulia do then? Keeps streaming her live feed.
I don't even know what is going on through her head, to be honest. Why would you continue to film? I would have dropped the phone and been like panicking.
Well, unfortunately, instead of immediately getting hold of emergency services, Obdulia shifting the phone back and forth between herself and Jackie's face. When the clip that'll follow, you'll be able to hear what she says. And if you want to see it, it's gruesome. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or hide it. It's gruesome. If you do want to see it, you can find it on YouTube. During the booking process, Obdulia's blood alcohol level was extremely over the limit. In California, our limit is 0.08. Hers was 0.101.
So almost double.
As well, she tested positive for cocaine and marijuana.
Damn.
She puts the phone towards her sister, and you can see from the bridge of her nose at the base of her forehead all the way up is cracked at least 3 to 4 inches wide.
It's almost like a piece of pie taken out.
Yeah. Or if you guys have ever dropped a watermelon, that's exactly what it looked like. It was so bad. And she just kept
And
filming.
she's like selfieing with it. Where she's like taking selfies, like her face next to her sister's face, like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
rubbing her
awful.
rubbing her stomach. Her affect. I don't even want to totally blame the drugs and the alcohol. Her affect itself was wrong. And as we go through and you hear about her beginnings, it may um, tell you why her affect was so wrong, so off, but it may not make a difference either. Appearing via remote camera from the jail, Obdulia pleads not guilty to charges of driving while intoxicated, causing great bodily harm, and gross vehicular manslaughter. How in the hell did she stand there looking at a judge and tell that judge, I didn't do this. I'm not guilty?
Right. I mean,
Obdulia,
she's not right. There's
mm-mm.
something wrong in her head.
Obdulia, in a phone interview with CBS, tells the reporter that she's received death threats over her live streaming her sister's dying moments. Quote, my parents are grieving enough, and that just makes them suffer more. She proceeded to tell the reporter how much her parents want her home. I'm more than sure they wanted both of their daughters home on that faith fulfilled day.
Right. I mean, they didn't just want one.
I'm going to say this as probably a unpopular opinion. Sending somebody a death threat is ridiculous, and it is especially ridiculous when it's somebody you don't know who did something to somebody you don't know. You can be outraged, you can protest, you can take to the streets for justice, but sending a death threat? Come on, that's like freaking 1980 12-year-old behavior.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Attorney Romanik Saru painted a picture of Obdulia as a victim of terrible fate, perfectly designed to tug at the heartstrings of everyone present in the courtroom. See, Obdulia, at the age of 11, was sexually molested by a very close relative. And then at 13, Obdulia was abducted off the streets in Stockton by a very evil predator who forced alcohol and methamphetamine on her and then sold her for sex trafficking.
Okay. This case just keeps getting weirder and worse and worse,
Worse.
I guess.
Yeah. Um, there was a silver lining for a moment because luckily, upon her return, she was placed into a group home style foster care. She received intensive therapy, rehab services. She was on a successful journey and defeating her demons that had plagued her since she was 11 years old. She was getting
Ugh.
good grades. She was sober. Everything was going her way.
Right.
Sadly, those demons were only in hibernation, awakening before the public and on display from Instagram Live. I give her attorney credit. He tried every avenue, from pointing out the slight discrepancies in the investigation to her tragic childhood. Um, Obdulia openly cried when the infamous Instagram feed was shown to the courtroom. During closing arguments, Obdulia addressed the judge, quote, I don't want to go to prison, but I deserve whatever punishment I receive, end quote. As nearly every person involved in the death of a loved one continues on telling the judge, quote, if she were here, I'd say, I'm so, so sorry. It should have been me. I have heard that so many times that I want to say bullshit whenever somebody says it.
Yeah.
I You knew when you got behind that wheel, you knew how drunk you were, you knew you were loaded. And instead of your parents being upset with you because you're late coming home, now you're in prison because you killed somebody.
Right. And all she can do is say she's sorry. I mean, I tell my daughter this kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, you don't you don't get to say you're sorry. Saying the words I'm sorry doesn't get you out of being in trouble.
No,
It
it
doesn't do anything. You still have to face the consequences for your actions.
it does not eliminate the action. It it says you have remorse.
But if you
You're
don't have changed behavior, then you're saying you're sorry is just a form of manipulation. Let's be real
exactly.
honest. Yeah.
Exactly. If you use that I'm sorry as the gateway to just continuing to do bad behavior, you were never sorry.
Right. Right.
And then save it. Save your sorry. Um, my son, we've had many discussions about when he's 21, he wants to go to a casino, he wants to go to a club, but he wants to go with his friends. He doesn't want his moms hanging around. I totally get it. That's cool. But we have a deal that if he wants an Uber for that night, I will pay for the Uber there and back. If he wants me to Uber him, I will Uber him there and back. And there will never be a discussion about how drunk he is, or he won't be in any kind of trouble for how drunk he is. Because one,
Right.
he'll be legal, and two, he'll be doing it the safe way.
Right. Right.
On February 8th, 2018, Obdulia Sanchez is sentenced to a measly 6 years and 4 months in state prison.
Damn.
This may be an unpopular opinion. Oh well, considering how traumatic her childhood was, I strongly feel her sentence was a miscarriage of justice. And here's why. After serving just over 2 years, Obdulia will find herself in trouble again. Sanchez, driving on a suspended license in a car with expired tags, leads Stockton PD on a high-speed chase in
No.
October of 2019. After attempting a traffic stop on one of the busiest stretches of Stockton, which is Pacific. It's like imagine a big old strip of freeway. That's what Pacific Avenue is like. It's got 4 lanes on each side, and people seem to think that they're in NASCAR when they're going.
Right.
Abdulia speeds away, running a stop sign, and then continuing to run stoplight after stoplight until she finally wipes out right by the ramp to the I-5 freeway. She had crossed from Pacific onto March, another extremely busy highway, right through town. Once she was placed in police custody, a loaded weapon was found in the glove compartment along with cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine. And these were all found on the front seat.
Okay.
Her male passenger got up and took out, and he couldn't be located. They didn't really care. They weren't really looking for him because he wasn't driving. Because the minute they pulled her over and looked in her face, they knew exactly who they had and they knew exactly what was going to happen.
Damn.
So once again, appearing before a judge, this time in San Joaquin County, she faced drug charges, felony possession of a weapon, and DUI, was sporting her sister's name tattooed on her neck.
Oh God.
That's a big fuck you to her sister, to her parents.
Exactly.
No, I disown her. This will give you an idea why Obdulia has been able to do the shit and she has been doing most of her life. Her father, in a tear filled interview, asked the court for leniency. Her father said, quote, Obdulia needs to be home to get help, not back in jail. I scoured the internet trying to find uh, what the outcome was of her offenses, and I didn't find it until actually today. And a lot of people are going to think she's this poor victim of society. But I I think she's not a victim of circumstance. She's a callous serial offender
Yeah.
because she was
I
on
agree with
house arrest. She was on house arrest when she ran from the cops. She had her little anklet on and everything. It didn't matter.
I mean, sure, she had some trauma and some bad things happen in her life, but she's not taking accountability and trying to heal herself or anything from the things that happened. She's just using that as a scapegoat to do whatever she wants. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, she absolutely did. But the main point of this episode that I wanted to get out there is we all love our social medias. I love Instagram. I have friends all over the United States, like Laugh. I got to meet her, got to become friends with her because of Instagram. Um, I like celebrating good events in our lives with the people that I've become to know and become close with through Instagram.
I agree with
But
that.
you have to know when to stop.
Yes.
You cannot. And I say this only because of this case. We need to watch our children. Where were they when this family member was molesting them? Where were they when she was kidnapped off the street? And why weren't they there when she checked herself out of the therapeutic foster family? Why weren't they there to discourage her to go back in and stay? She could have stayed until she was in her 20s.
Right. Right.
Uh, it's hard, and I understand this. It's hard to know what they're doing every second, every minute, every hour of every day. But technology gives us a way to monitor it. Um, I saw my nephew do something that I wish we would have had when our kids were smaller. Um, so on your phone, if you have a Roku television, there's an app that's on your phone that allows you to use it as a remote control. So you can control your TV with your phone. And I went over to visit, and my great nephew was upstairs watching TV. And my nephew had called up to him several times that he needed to come down and he needed to visit. And we were all going to go outside. And he just kept ignoring. So my nephew turned and he took his phone and he turned off my nephew's TV, my great nephew's TV.
Okay.
So Colton comes downstairs and says, Daddy, my TV's off. I know, I turned it off. We're going outside.
Oh, damn.
And that right there is how you monitor.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
So, um, So you guys, one, know what your kids are doing, even if they're older. Ask the hard questions, make the hard decisions, put your foot down if you have to. It's never fun. I hate telling my son no, and he makes me feel guilty for telling him no. But then when something big comes up and he made the right decision, that guilt goes right out the window.
And I mean, just like from my with my daughter, for example, like kids don't always come out and say something unless you catch the cues from them. Like she had this friend, and she would go over occasionally and spend the night, but then it turned to them always doing sleepovers over here, and I made the comment of, why don't you ever going over there? And she's like, I just don't want to. Even when her friend would be like, let's go to my house and spend the night, my daughter would agree to it, and then she would get there and call me and be like, I'm tired, can I come home? And so I
Mm-hmm.
just flat out asked her once, I was like, what is going on? And she was like, her brother is creepy, he creeps me out. And so I never brought it up. And anytime her friend asks her to come over and do a sleepover, I always make up excuses. No, she can't. Maybe next weekend you can come over to our house or something, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of give her an out so she doesn't have to continually say no. I do
And
it for
just right. And just recently, there was, and I wish I could remember his name. I will come up with it, and I'm going to throw it in here. His 16-year-old, 14-year-old, excuse me, 14-year-old daughter had a sleepover, and he made them all smoothies.
her. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the one girl, one of the friend, like his daughter tasted it, no big deal. One friend drank it, said it tasted funny, but went ahead and drank it because she didn't want to be rude because her parents did not teach her it was okay to say no.
Right. Right. I mean,
And the
that's
other,
all the clean the plate thing. You have to finish what you're given. It's rude to not accept drinks and stuff from somebody and things like that. I get that.
when you're a guest, yeah, when you're a guest, okay. The other one, whose parents did tell and teach her that, hey, if something doesn't look right, seem right, it's probably not. It's okay for you to say no. She took a sip, said it was extremely bitter, and handed it back to the friend's dad and
Wow.
said,
You go, girl.
it said, no, thank you.
Damn.
That girl that had just taken a sip woke up in the middle of the night to their friend's father fondling the girl who drank the whole thing. He
Ugh.
had
Oh no.
laced it with sleeping pills.
Ugh. That's why it was bitter.
Yep.
What a
Because
creepo.
just like most barbiturates, they have a bitter taste so that you don't want to take more than like one or two.
Right.
And you cannot disguise their taste. And when you crush them up, they just get worse. So that's the point I was getting at. Know what they're doing, give them the right to say no.
Right. Yeah. Be the out.
And, and like you just said, you say no for her, I'll do the same thing. Um, when our son was a little bit younger, um, you know how grandparents, they've got all their old fogey friends and everybody wants to squish your cheeks and give you hugs and kisses, and because they're little old ladies and they think kids are the greatest thing that have ever lived. And it's true, they are. But my mother-in-law had a friend in Newberry Park down south, Southern California, and she would just say like hi to the girls, but she always wanted to hug my son.
Okay.
And he's a touch me not. He's a touch me not even now. He doesn't really like it.
Okay.
Um, and so she, puts her arms out, and he looks at her, and he looks at my wife, and my mother-in-law starts saying, go give Mrs. Johnson a hug. Mrs. Johnson has something for you if you give her a hug. And I pulled on she was my girlfriend, pulled on my wife's sleeve, and she looked at me, and I said, that's not okay. And she goes, no, it's not. And so she, called her son by his name and said, if you don't want to hug Miss Johnson, you don't have to. You can say no. And he's like, no, Grandma, I don't want to hug her. And my mother in law threw a fit. And my wife, bless her heart, because I'm glad she did it because I was going to do it, turned around and said, you don't ever have to have physical contact with somebody if you don't want to. No matter how old you are, and no matter how old that person is, if you don't feel comfortable, you do not have to engage.
Right. I agree with that. And it's weird though because like growing up, I can remember it didn't matter if you didn't want to or not. You hugged the old people. You let them kiss you and paddle you on the butt and pinch your cheek. And there was this old lady that lived on my grandma's street that we'd have to give a hug, and every time she'd give us a hug, she'd pat our butts.
Yeah, that's weird.
Right.
My mom again was ahead of her time because we used to go to church with my grandma, and every person in church wants to hug you and thinks you're the cutest thing in your little Sunday dress.
Right.
And um, anytime that they would try to hug me or hold my hand or something in church, I'd scream bloody murder.
Eh.
And so my grandma had a fit. My mom's like, she doesn't want to be touched. So, with saying all that, party people, we're going to wrap it up. And wrapping it up, all we're asking is let that text message wait, let that Instagram post wait,
And you should be not doing lives while driving.
and please do not do FaceTime, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, while you're driving. Just focus on our roads because you may be in her situation if you don't heed that warning.
Damn straight.
So, as we always say, party people, catch us on the flip side.
Bye.